Hi and welcome to another episode of Rick's Garage. So today is just a bonus lockdown episode, and I'm going to share with you guys my entire car history. It is going to be a long one. I've tried to compress it as much as I can, but there is a lot of cars. So if you're up for it, go and grab yourself a nice cup of tea and coffee, and I shall see you in a moment. Okay, so my car history. It is worth mentioning there's nothing exotic, extravagant or expensive about my car history. They were just normal, everyday, run-of-the-mill cars. Obviously they were just basic, simple cars when I was first starting out, when I was young in my teenage years. But over the years they've got better and better. I hope you'll agree. So yeah, anyway, let's get straight into it and let's begin with my first car, the Renault 5. Oh yes, the Renault 5, my first car, 18 years of age, woke up Christmas morning, my mum and dad had arranged my first car for me. It wasn't a turbo. I'd always been a fan of the turbo and the Gordini, absolutely phenomenal cars. I don't think anybody would disagree. But yeah, my Renault 5 was none other than the 1400 Campus, but believe you me, I was absolutely chuffed to bits with that. I was just made up that it wasn't a 1 litre. But yeah, Renault 5, modification started pretty much straight away on that. Believe it or not, I actually had a Rover GSI front bumper on it. Yeah, they do actually fit perfectly. I had some Vauxhall Cavalier side skirts on it. You heard that right, Cavalier side skirts, actually cut down, and I screwed them straight on with some self-tapping screws to the seam underneath the sill. Unbelievable. I had a Renault 5 dimmer rear bumper on it. 15-inch alloy wheels, lowered the front end 40mm. The rear end, yeah, let's not talk about that. Actually, yeah, let's talk about it. Money was limited back in when I was 18. I only had so much funds, and back then, years and years and years ago, this is obviously, you know, doing the torsion bar, which Renaults have, it was a specialist job back then, roughly £200 worth of work, something like that. I couldn't afford that, so what I did is I went to B&Q and put some sandbags in the boot, which dropped the rear end down. Yeah, I shit you not. Obviously that slowed the car down a lot, but yeah, I absolutely loved this car. Just quickly, I just want to say that when my mum and dad got me that car, this was pristine. I mean, mint. Looked like an old guy had had it from brand new. It'd done about maybe 40,000 miles when I got it. It was totally original, very mint. Now, my dad really loves and appreciates original cars. Now, obviously I do now, but back then I didn't. So my dad, watching me bastardise this car in the way he did, it must have really done his head in. But still, he left me to it, let me enjoy it. So for that, you know, I'm really thankful to my dad for that. But yeah, anyway, moving on to car number 2. The Peugeot 106 Kid. Oh, the Peugeot 106 Kid. Now, this was not one of my best cars. I've tried to forget about it, but I just can't. Yeah, Peugeot 106 Kid. It was a special edition model, and believe it or not, it actually had a full denim interior. A denim interior? Oh, unbelievable. I'd actually dropped down in CC at this point. It was just a 1 litre. It was a PSA TU engine, which I'm actually a massive fan of, but this was just a 1 litre version of that. But the TU engine, I'm going to touch on that later on in the video. But yeah, this car, Peugeot 106, I didn't have it for very long. It had a 3-stud hub, and there was probably 1 set of alloy wheels on the market at the time, 3-stud alloys, which I bought. It was alright, I just wasn't a fan of it, to be honest. A quick story on that car. Back in the day, the Max Power days, in my heyday, it was massive to tint the rear lights. People bought Lexus lights or tinted the rear lights. And one trick that popped up in a magazine once that people were doing is putting women's stockings or tights over the rear lights. Oh, unbelievable. I was going out with this girl at the time and he actually got pulled over by the police. Officer comes to the side window and says the usual, "Do you know why I've stopped you?" I said, "I haven't a clue, officer." He said, "Your rear lights, what have you done?" I said, "I've tinted them." He said, "You've tinted them with what?" And I said, under my breath, of tights. He said, "Pardon?" I said, "Tights, the tights." He said, "You've put tights over your rear lights." Next minute, this girl I was courting was laughing her head off. The copper was laughing his head off uncontrollably, so much so he just said, "Listen, get on your way, get home, take them off." So I did, went home, took them off, and as I was taking them off, I actually discovered that one of them had a great big ladder down it. But yeah, not one of my finest moments. But yeah, anyway, moving swiftly on to car number 3. The Renault Megane RT. Ah yes, the Renault Megane. I actually wanted the coupe version of this, but for some reason I ended up with the 5-door. But this car I absolutely loved to bits. It was a really good spec, an RT model, so it had all the optional extras on it. The time I had this car, they weren't that old. But yeah, RT model. Modifications included the 17-inch alloy wheels, lowered it 40mm front and rear, although I don't have a photo of this or beyond this point. But some of the more poor modifications I did to that car, embarrassingly. Now don't forget, I was only a kid. I actually, as I mentioned, it was a 5-door. I actually removed, filled and had the rear door handles smoothed out. Unbelievable. Why? I had a set of Sparko bucket seats in it, in a Megane, and I had green neon lights underneath and green headlights in it. I was just driving along looking like something like Domino off the Running Man. But yeah, I loved this car. I absolutely battered it to death anywhere. I never spent a bean on it mechanically. It was just so reliable. Never wanted for a thing. I actually regretted selling that car. But yeah, fantastic car, that Megane. Always remember it. Moving on to the next one. The Citroen Saxo Vtr. Yes, the Saxo Vtr. Now, back in the day, in my heyday, you weren't a boy racer unless you had a Saxo Vtr or VTS, a Vauxhall Nova SR, you know, Vauxhall Corsa, whatever, you get the score. But yeah, the Saxo Vtr, absolutely superb car. Now, back when I had one, I thought this was the dog's bollocks. It was a nippy car to me, upgrade again. The VTR was the 1.6 8-valve because it was obviously the VTS that had the 16-valve. But yeah, VTR, again, PSA TU engine. What a phenomenal engine these are. PSA TU engine, they were used since the 80s, is it? They used them in the Peugeot 205, the Peugeot 106, the Citroen AX, the Saxo, yeah, they used them in all sorts. Absolutely phenomenal bomb-proof engine. Lots of variations and sizes of it, but yeah, massive fan of that engine. Very tunable, they're great. But yeah, the Saxo Vtr, this is a photo of me in the car. Check out that big, massive air scoop in the front. People used to take the mick and call that a Coke can holder. I don't know what I was thinking. Actually came with the car when I bought it, believe it or not. Check out me, full head of hair, in those massive pants. Believe me, my legs were like that on the inside of those pants, skinny as you like. But Saxo Vtr, great car. I actually sold that to my cousin, and unfortunately she pulled out on someone and wrote it off, but thankfully both she and the third party were fine. But that was the end of that one. Let's move on. The Rover 200 VI. Yes, the Rover 200. Now, this wasn't any ordinary Rover 200. I actually bought this by mistake. It was actually a Rover 200 VI, the VI being the special bit. Now, this was at a time before the MG ZR came out. Before the ZR came out, it was actually the Rover 200 VI and the Rover BRM. They both utilised the same engine, and it was the 1800 VVC engine. Phenomenal engine. I love the K-Series engine. But yeah, the VI variation of that, absolutely phenomenal. Very strong engine, 150 horsepower. It was a little wolf in sheep's clothing. Mine was a 5-door one. Things I did to that, alternator went on it, had that done, and then the inevitable head gasket. I still convince myself to this day that that head gasket was nothing to do with the way I drove it. Probably wrong. But yeah, great car. Really, really, really like the K-Series engine. Moving swiftly on. The Citroen Zara Vtr. Oh, the Zara Vtr. This is another car I've tried to forget about, but I can't. Citroen Zara Vtr, I don't know what I was thinking. I think I just seen the Vtr badge and thought, brilliant. But it wasn't. It was crap. Absolutely rubbish. Again, PSA TU engine, good strong engine, but obviously the car weighed a lot more than the Saxo, a lot heavier, a lot slower. And mine was like it was this colour. Horrible. I remember my girlfriend at the time, now my wife, she got in it when I picked it up. She didn't like it, and believe me, as a young lad, teenager, that's soul destroying. But yeah. That didn't stay for very long, didn't do anything to it, thank God, and it moved on to my next car. The Mazda MX-3. Yes, the MX-3, particularly the V6, I actually had two of these, but I'm only going to really talk about one. But yeah, I had two. K-Series engine, obviously not the Rover, but the Mazda K-Series engine. More commonly found in the 2.5 litre variation, as found in the Mazda MX-6 and even the Ford Probe. But as most people may know, the MX-3 actually had a 1800cc variation of that engine. The smallest displacement for a V6 on the market, but because of that they were super smooth, unbelievably smooth. They sounded great. Put an induction kit on, you should have heard the induction noise on it. Fantastic. I loved mine. I loved it so much. The first one I had of those is when I discovered what lift-off oversteer was, and ruined that in a barrier at the side of the road, unfortunately. Had another one, had the Sparco wheels on it, big red mud flaps, Sparco seats again, but yeah, superb looking car, superb engineering, really reliable. Anybody who's ever owned one of these cars will probably vouch for me. They sound and drive superb. Moving on. The Toyota MR2. Yeah, the Toyota MR2, first rear-wheel drive car that I had. Mid-engined, pop-up lights. Everybody's got to experience pop-up lights once in a time. Fantastic little sports car. It wasn't a turbo one. It was a 2-litre GT. It had all blue leather interior, blue dash, blue carpets, blue seats. It actually sounds horrible, but it's really nice. Very comfortable. The wife likes this. 170 horsepower as standard, so although they weren't fast, they were nippy little cars, good fun, a little bit unpredictable in the wet, no traction control, no ABS. Mine was an early model, but yeah, always fancied the turbo variation of that, the Jap import, but never really got round to it. But yeah, fantastic car. Kept it standard, never really did anything to that. Phenomenal. You can see why these have a cult following, for good reason really. But anyway, moving on to the next car. The Honda Accord. Yep, the Honda Accord. This was just a normal 2-litre VTEC. Power massively sapped by the automatic gearbox that it had in it. But I had this car looking nice. Photos don't do it justice, to be honest. It had the black and polished alloy wheels, drilled and grooved brakes, which you can see here in this photo. Debadged on the rear, lowered, really subtle. I think it was just a 30mm drop, but it was a lovely car. It turned heads everywhere it went. Had it looking really nice, looked after it. I vividly remember my wife helping me polish that as well sometimes. Or girlfriend she was at the time. But yeah, phenomenal car. Always lusted over the 2.2 Type R variation of that. Always wanted the Type R one, probably still do, but yeah, never really got around to it. But yeah, fantastic car, very reliable. But I sold that and moved on to my next one. The Alfa Romeo 156. Yeah, the Alfa 156, absolutely phenomenal car. Now before we begin, I would just like to give a big shout out to the owner of this car, Mr. Tim Courtney. This is one of the cars I had no photos of, and I couldn't find any proper images online of the one I had, same model, same spec, so I reached out to the guys on the owners club and Tim came forward, let me use these photos for this video, so thank you very much sir. Very nice car, very nice choice. But yeah, moving on, the Alfa 156 was a 2-litre twin spark that I had. I don't know a massive amount about these engines, but correct me if I'm wrong, they were a Fiat derived or Fiat designed engine, but nevertheless very characterful engine, superb to drive. Perfect weight distribution in the car. The handle absolutely phenomenal. Mine was lowered on 40mm, and it was a medium-sized saloon, but the handle like a little go-kart. It was red, exactly what you see here, or burgundy. The teledial alloys, and the interior was just absolutely brilliant. I mean, again, photos don't do them justice. The Momo interior, just like this. Phenomenal car. It wasn't without its many issues which I tried to rectify, but yeah, I got most of it done before I actually sold that to my best friend, and he loved enjoying it just as much as I did. But yeah, that was my first taste of Italian car ownership. If I could find another one now and use it as a cheap daily runaround, I would, but you know, finding one now, a rust-free example, they're just few and far between. So anyway, moving on to the next one. The BMW E39 5 Series. So yes, as many people will know by now, I come from a BMW background, and this was my first one. It was in the form of an early pre-facelift 523 model. Now this car started out as a bog standard SE model. It had orange indicators, the lot, chrome around the windows, and this was at a time when the sport model was still, you know, at a premium. So what I actually did is I did pretty much converted it to an M Sport model, changed the bumpers on it to the M Sport or M5 ones, put the Angel Eye headlights on it, de-chromed it. I even swapped the entire interior over from the SE to the Sport model. Spent a lot of money on it, as you can see. Don't forget, again, this was a long time ago. But yeah, I loved this car. This was my first taste of an executive kind of car, really. It was fantastic. Really strong bomb-proof engine. The 523 is actually one of the de-restricted 150 horsepower 6-cylinder engines. Before the 525 came out, and the 528 replaced the 523 as well. For those eagle-eyed viewers, you'll see that car still has the original 16-inch turbine SE alloys on it. That's because I was intending to put the sport alloys on it, but I never really got round to it before selling it. But yeah, nevertheless, superb car, really nice. And this was the first of many to come. The Vauxhall Vectra. Yes, believe it or not, I am actually a massive fan of the Vauxhall Vectra B. Not the Vectras per se or Vauxhalls per se, just the Vectra B. Love them. Really masculine shape, really masculine drive. Mine was actually a very rare special edition model that people hadn't really weren't really much aware of. Not to be confused with the Vectra C design edition. There's countless of those, but the Vectra B design edition, they were a beautiful car. They were actually brought out after the GSI models, I believe, and it was kind of a last hurrah for the Vectra B. It had every conceivable extra on it: two-tone dash, full cream interior, heated seats, xenon headlights, aircon, you name it, it had it. Fantastic looking car. My only regret with that car is it came with some beautiful 16-inch moon dust silver alloys on it, and I took those off and fitted these ones instead, which are an acquired taste, but again, I was young. But yeah, that was a beautiful car. My wife liked that one as well. But yeah, anyway, moving swiftly on. The Nissan 200 SX. Yeah, the 200SX, mine was the facelifted S14A model. Phenomenal car, SR20 DT engine, very strong, very popular engine, very easy to modify, make quicker. Unfortunately, mine was the automatic model, although I did have it booked in for a manual conversion before I got rid of it. But yeah, superb car, real road presence, got a lot of attention out on the road and at car shows. It actually had some BC Racing coilovers when pretty much not long after they come out. They were an expensive bit of kit back then. I had some nice really wide alloys on it, 8.5J front, 9.5J rear, slight stretch on the tyres, pretty much a stage 1 tune on it, HKS induction kit, stainless, you know, all the shebang. But yeah, really nice car. I regretted selling that, to be honest. That'd be worth you know, worth a good amount of money now. Weapon of choice by drift nuts, obviously very tail happy, but yeah, really big following. I really liked mine a lot. I actually regretted selling that, but anyway, I sold that and I moved on to the next one. The Vauxhall Vectra Super Touring. Yeah, I'm back in another Vectra B at this point, but this one was a special one. It is in the name of a Vauxhall Vectra Super Touring. Now, the Super Touring was released to pay homage to the Vauxhall Vectra touring car and to celebrate the success in the Touring Car Championship. To do that, they brought out these. They were in limited numbers. They produced 500 of them. Pretty much all of them were white, or majority of them were white. They all came with white alloy wheels. But that said, those eagle-eyed viewers again will know that those aren't the original alloys. Those are actually Phase 1 GSI alloys, but that's just what I bought the car with. I actually bought this from a Vauxhall main dealership. and they had obviously selling new cars, and then they had this thing in the showroom in the corner, obviously a rare car. They wanted to sell it properly. I was one of the first, or the first, to go and view it, and I bought it straight away. Somebody had done a lot of extensive restoration work on it, including a full respray, and it was absolutely mint. Really, really nice car, that. Here's a few photos of me attending a few car meets or fellow super touring owners. But yeah, very, very rare car. You just don't see them on the roads at all. Again, wish you hadn't sold that one. But anyway, I did, and moved on to the next one. The Bmw E39 530D. Yes, so I got myself behind of another Bmw E39 530D. This was at the time where we just had our first child, Jack, 10 years ago now. Obviously needed something a bit more sensible, so what better than another E39, right? This was a 530D, as aforementioned. Fantastic car, very slick, very smooth, very torquey as per nature of diesels. M Sport. Finally got the M Sport that I wanted, and this was at a time where they were still fetching good money as well. But I was really happy with this car. Unfortunately, it wasn't without its faults. I wouldn't say faults, but it wanted for a lot of consumables, replaceables, and it couldn't have come at a worse time, really, having just started a family. This is when I actually started knuckling down and learning how to do stuff myself. So yeah, phenomenal car. Very, very popular for good reason. Let's move on. So I've still got the BMW 530D, but as well as that, I decided to go out and buy more of a toy, a weekend car, a garage queen if you like, and that was in a form of a BMW E28 5 Series. Oh, now these, I wanted these for one of these for quite a while. Quite sought after. I wouldn't say rare or sought after, but you know, hard to find a good one. They're very, very old now. Beautiful shank nose front end. Mine was just a 520 M20 engine, automatic gearbox. Now the M20 engine, bulletproof. Really, really good, solid, robust engine. They'll go on forever if you look after them. But mine was the 2-litre variation of that, and coupled with the automatic gearbox. Naturally, it was very slow, but it wasn't that kind of car to rally around. It was just, you know, go out with the family, enjoy a nice, relaxing drive. And believe me, this car looked like it had just come out of a box. It was mint. It took me a while to find it, and this is probably the car out of my entire car collection or car history I wish I would never have sold. I should not have sold it because it would suit me down to the ground now. But yeah, phenomenal car, E28, big following. Should have kept it because it would be worth a fortune now. In fact, it is worth a fortune because I've seen it for sale a couple of months ago. But anyway, let's move on. Okay, so I've still got the 530D at this point, only just, but we decided to go out and buy another family car, and that was in the form of a Bmw E90 3 Series. So yeah, we bought this from the dealership in Liverpool. I had a very specific spec that I wanted. It had to be the exclusive, I think it was, edition, in Montego blue with the chrome around the windows. Previous generations of 3 Series, lots of them had the chrome around the windows, but on this model, very, very little of them did. But yeah, I wanted this specific model, Montego blue with the full black leather and the chrome around the windows, and that's what I got. Beautiful car. We did have economy in mind because it was a family car. My wife would be using it for work every day, so it wasn't a 6-cylinder. It was just a 318, so a 2-litre petrol, but still nice, smooth engine. It wasn't without its faults though, I'm afraid to say. Despite it being a new car, it had one or two little problems with it, one of which my wife was driving to work one day and calls me in a panic saying that there's smoke or steam coming out from under the engine. BMW service came straight out to it, give them the due, and it turned out to be an oil breather that had popped off the back of the engine. Not what you'd expect, but yeah, that's what happened. We had this car quite a while though, and it was a nice car, to be fair. My wife wanted it, I wanted it, she drove it every day and loved it. But yeah, anyway, let's move on. Okay, so we've still got the E93 series as the main family car, but I'd just sold the 530D. I replaced that with another BMW E39 5 Series, and this one was in the form of a early pre-facelift 528. I wanted to go back to an SE model. You know, when you're young and you want things to look, you know, more sporty and whatever, I can see how the sports do appeal to many people. but I wanted to go back to an SE model. I think they're just a better drive, nicer drive. But again, I wanted a very specific spec. Early pre-face model 528, amber corner lights, chrome pack. But yeah, this car was an absolute beauty. I didn't want for anything. The only thing I did is completely change the interior on that. It ticked all the boxes apart from the interior, so I ended up completely swapping the entire dashboard out, replaced the carpets, replaced the headliner, completely replaced the seats and door cards. But in the end, it was a car that I was really happy with. I really enjoyed that car. Anyway, let's carry on. Okay, so at this point again, we've still got the E93 series as the main family car, but I had sold the E39 and moved on to my next little project, and that was in the form of a Bmw E36 3 Series. So yeah, the E36 3 Series I had, coupe, again it was a tick list I had. It was a coupe SE model, and it was a 6-cylinder. It was a 523, 170 horsepower manual. I actually bought this from a one owner. A doctor had it from brand new. It was absolutely mint. I hope you can see that on the photos. It really was mint. Unfortunately, I ended up needing to replace the gearbox on that, which I did myself, because the first gear synchro went on it. Unbelievable, because it wasn't even high mileage. But yeah, I replaced the gearbox, clutch, flywheel, the cats, the exhaust. I enjoyed that, but in the end it just didn't feel like enough, and I wanted something else. In fact, I had my eye on something else. Okay, so again, we've still got the E93 series as the daily driver, but I swapped the 3 Series in favour of another 5 Series E39, and it was in the form of a 530i M Sport. So yeah, back to an M Sport. To be honest, I wasn't looking for another E39. I certainly wasn't looking for another M Sport. But in my job, I was passing daily a guy who'd had one of these from brand new. It was parked on his drive for quite a while. You could see it wasn't cosmetically the best. It had a big dent in the rear quarter, and it was just stuck there. So one day I decided to give him a quick knock on the door, as you do, and I just asked him about it. And in the end, I ended up buying it off him for peanuts. In fact, I got this for £1,000, £1,000. It'd done 80,000 miles, but it was just the cosmetic issues on it. But took it home, got all the rear quarter sorted out on it, did all the mechanicals, even replaced the twin Vanos seals, completely rebuilt the Vanos units on it myself. Now these are the M54 TU engines, 3 litre, very nice engine, but still I just wasn't a fan of it at all. I much prefer the earlier single Vanos engines. But yeah, it was a nice car, but you know, it just I moved it on fairly quickly, made a good chunk of money on it. But yeah, it was a nice car. Let's move on. So still got the E93 series, wife's still driving it, and I wanted to buy another toy for myself. Now that was in the form of another E36 3 Series. Okay, so this 3 Series was actually a 318 IS M Sport model from the factory. I'd had my eye on this car for quite some time. A little story behind this one. A local guy, an old guy, had bought it brand new, as it turned out. He bought it brand new as a retirement present to himself. And I remember him driving it around in my local town centre, and it was parked up at the side of the road, looking, you know, a little bit sorry for itself. It wanted a lot of cosmetic things on it, and he actually left a note on his windscreen. But one thing I will say is a friend of mine actually snapped that from under my nose. I was gutted. But yeah, I kept badgering him for it, badgering my mate for it, and eventually I bought it off him as a project. I ended up even paid him a little more than what he paid for it. But yeah, finally got my hands on this 318 IS Sport. I'd wanted it for a long time. I think it had done 32,000 miles. And this car was my baby. I did everything to it, lots of restoration work, as you can see in some of these photos. It was I didn't quite do it to a standard which I'm currently doing my let's say current project, but it was a phenomenal car. I did a lot of work to it, absolutely loved it. But yeah, fantastic car. Do I regret selling it? No, I loved it, but my reason for selling it I will cover in a moment. Okay, so now we've just sold the E93 series family car, and my wife wanted something smaller. She likes a little hatchbacks. So what she replaced that with, or we replaced that with, is a new Ford Fiesta. Now, what is there to say about a Fiesta? It is what it is. It was a little car, 1.2, had lots of optional extras. It was a nice car, what can I say? But yeah, let's move on. So at this point, we own the Fiesta. I've got my E36 as a project car, but I was in the market for a workhorse at this point. We enjoy holidays abroad, but also having a young family and a dog. We had a tourer as well, caravan. So I wanted a workhorse, something to tow with, but I didn't want a diesel. So I was looking at all sorts of cars, and my wife stumbled upon this, the Saab 9.3. So yeah, the Saab 9.3. I wanted something that I wouldn't be enthusiastic about, just used as a normal car, but something that was going to be reliable, cheap, but low mileage. So I found this Saab 9.3 with 30,000 miles on the clock, and it's actually a 1.8T, so it's a 2-litre turbo petrol. 150 horsepower as standard, but what I decided to do was get a stage 1 map on it, remap. Went through a guy called Noob Tune, very familiar on the Saab scene. Now at the time this car was released, they also did a 2-litre T as well, same engine as mine, but the only difference was a map and a turbo as well. But yeah, anyway, I had the remap done, and what that did was took me up to the same power as the 2-litre T, the power it should have been really, but also gave me a bit more, and the final result is 235 horsepower. And you know, this car was an absolutely phenomenal towing machine, phenomenal. The only thing that went against it is the caravan bullied the car a little bit weight wise, but power wise, oh, superb, fantastic. And you know, we've had this for a good few years now, and it's been up, down and around the country. It's been absolutely so reliable. And you know what, this is a big statement, but this has been the best car that I've ever owned. Yeah, honestly, it's been the best car I've ever owned, and I'm never going to sell it. I'm not enthusiastic about it. It's just weird. It's just weird when something does something so well for you, you just kind of really, I don't know, you just kind of really become fond of it, I suppose. But I'm not going to sell this car. I'm just going to run it into the ground, and the only way I'm going to get rid of it is if it starts costing money, or you know, really breaking on us. But yeah, it's been a superb car. Highly criticised, to be honest, because these are actually based on the Vauxhall Vectra chassis, and they were built in collaboration with General Motors. But it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's a great car, a little bit basic inside, a bit plasticky, but yeah, what a machine, what a machine. So let's move on. Okay, so at this point, we just sold the Ford Fiesta. My wife had our second child, Mia. So yeah, we sold the Fiesta, and all we had was the Saab and the Bmw E36. We decided to get rid of the Fiesta because she was on maternity for 12 months, and it was just pointless having 3 cars. Got to a point where I wanted to sell the E36. Now, why did I want to sell my baby? Well, the answer to that was simple. The Alfa Romeo GTV. So yeah, here we are, present date, in possession of the Alfa Romeo GTV. It was a toss-up between one of these or the Fiat Coupe 20 valve turbo, which I adore, but at the end of the day, I just felt like the GTV V6 just had a little bit of more of an edge in terms of, you know, just felt a little bit more special. Now obviously that is a personal thing, each to their own, isn't it? But yeah, really happy with it. I haven't driven it much, to be honest, since I bought it. I've driven it for maybe 2 or 3 months before taking it off the road, and that's where it's been ever since for the past 18 months, and it's undergoing a full restoration on the underside, as you know. So yeah, there you go. This is the final one. My wife was back at work and we wanted another car. We've still got the Saab and the Alfa, but we wanted another car. One came along, and it was in the form of the Volvo S80. So yeah, the Volvo S80, it's the D5 2.4 diesel engine. Now, I didn't want another diesel, but my mum and dad owned this for many years. I know the history of it. I know it's been well looked after, driven sensibly, and they were going to part X it for a newer model, obviously. They were going to part X it and not at a great price. So what I decided to do was buy it off them instead, and that's currently what we've got. and yeah, it's a nice car. Again, I'm not enthusiastic about it. It's just a workhorse really. So that's what we have now. We have the Volvo S80, the Saab 9.3, which is staying, and the Alfa Romeo GTV. So yeah, there you go guys, that is my car history. I'm sorry it was so long, but I've tried to compress it as much as I can. Okay, so there you go, we have reached an end to this video. If you've managed to watch it all, then thank you very much indeed, you've done very well. I tried to make the video as short as possible, but obviously there are a lot of cars to get in one video. So yeah, I am a massive petrol head, I can't help it, but I am settling down now. I like to think I've got my forever car. You know, it's something that is special, at least to me. It's something I can do road trips in, take pride in, and I'm building it to enjoy. So yeah, thank you very, very much for tuning in, guys. Safe motoring during this pandemic. Stay safe. Staying home saves lives, and I shall see you in the next episode. Thank you very, very much for watching. All the best.